Hey, this is the Antisocial Socialite back at it again. Shout out to all of you wonderful new subscribers and returning friends. Welcome. If you are new to the channel, you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for, darling? Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so when I get to running this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. I know that there are probably a number of live streams going on at the moment, and this is another long video, but I don't want it to take too long. So the thing about this, for once, Christelyn is actually kind of innocent. I wanted to touch on this video with this gentleman anyway, because two different people, maybe it's the same person on two different platforms, actually brought this subject up to me about this book. When I was trying to discuss things about why there is allegedly a shortage of eligible black men, the person kept saying to me, have you seen this book? Or have you heard of the book, Is Marriage for White People? It shows a lot of statistics why there's allegedly a shortage of black men. And I said, I haven't heard of this book. The title sounds quite, controversial. So they sent me a link to this video, which was a TED Talk. And I basically said, this guy didn't explain anything to me. I haven't actually learned anything from this TED Talk. And statistics don't really tell me anything. Not that he actually laid out the statistics. So I went and I started looking at different videos by the guy, the same guy Banks. I went and had another look at two other videos, and I couldn't really find anything in his videos that made tells women to date interracially to avoid dying alone. Really? So Ralph Richard Banks, yeah. I watched about 3 videos, and I get it. Maybe he wants to sell his book, so he doesn't really want to give you all the statistics from the book. But at the end of the day, the YouTube video really didn't tell me anything that I didn't know already. So I was going to cover this video anyway, because I wanted to address this conversation, this talking point, that basically black women are forced to date out because there's a shortage of eligible men. Okay? So when Christelyn did this video, it was like, okay, you might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because not only are you going to look at the issue with this book or some of his talking points, but also, her response and what she's training her subscribers to think about the situation. So without further ado, we're going to crack on. It's about 50 minutes. Hopefully we'll skim through, and yeah.
Some faulty information. And one thing that I really like about Rick's book is that he tells the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard to swallow, but I think that it's very important that we have these conversations so that we can make educated decisions about the choices that we make in a mate. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring Professor Banks in here. There he is. Uh-oh, I don't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I'm here. I spent half my day with people saying, you're muted. But now I'm
Professor Banks, is it okay to call you a colleague? We are fellow authors sisters in this, and I'm.
And you can call me Rick. We're not in the classroom.
Right. Okay. All right. Oh God. Okay. I
you know, she's already giggly, and you know, you can see that the demeanor is very different for somebody who says a lot of smack about black men online. She's very, very teethy right about now.
Because I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and you are very professorial. So, it's hard to.
So if you're not professorial, you know, Christelyn doesn't have any respect for you.
Get out of that. So there's a lot of people in here. As I told you earlier today when we were talking on the phone, my primary audience is college-educated African American women, and you wrote "Is Marriage for White People" specifically for this demographic. And so my first question that I want to ask you is, why did you feel the need for this?
Well, there are a number of reasons. So I'm a law professor, and I write a lot about race and inequality. And so I wanted to write about issues of race in the context of the family. I'm a black man. I have 3 sisters who are black women. We're very close. I've seen their lives, and frankly, we share all of our struggles in life, and in particular, with relationships and family and forming bonds with partners and all. And my sisters are wonderful. 2 of them are not partnered.
Okay, so shout out to Obsidian. He brought up an amazing point. When I heard this video for the first time, this was not the thing that struck me. He says the struggles of black men and black women are essentially the same. No, they're not. Okay, women can always fall back on feminism and the "I'm a woman, get out of jail free" card that men cannot fall back on, black or white. If you're a man, you're going to be sentenced more harshly. If you are are you sleeping on your thought? Just got in. It's 7:23 Eastern. You're tired. Okay, it's the standards for men in general in the West are always much higher than the standards for women. But in addition to that, for example, they're going to be sentenced more harshly, yada, yada, yada. He says he's got 3 sisters and only one of them has managed to get married. And I don't believe that sister's married to a black man. Looking at his age, his sisters, and the thing about it is this, he's going to tell you about his life. He is the youngest. So his sisters came up right in the middle of the feminist movement. They were heavily indoctrinated into that frame of mind. So it doesn't surprise me that he has probably college-educated women who have a strong feminist mindset. They come from that generation of women, and they are not married. Shout out to Obsidian. He brought up a great point. He said, if you are somebody who's promoting swirling or interracial dating to help women get married, how come you haven't managed to find a white man for your sisters? So I thought that was a really good point as well. Somewhere along the lines, we know what time it is with guys who are in that generation, but even the way he set it up, he's already shown that his plan to help black women be more married is failing, because he has 3 sisters, but only one of them has managed to make it to the altar.
Which is not because they made a decision that was what they wanted early on, but it was partly a result of just confronting the world.
Confronting the world how? Doing adult things like going to work? Although he says it wasn't their decision, we know, especially looking at YouTube recently, yes, it's not so much a conscious decision to stay single, but if you're not the kind of person somebody wants to marry, you will be single by default.
That's frankly not made for black women. So
this statement was a bit strange. What does he mean by it's not black? The society is not made for black women. In what sense? Like, you're a double minority. You're female and you're also black. So where is the problem? this statement sounded good 20, 30, 50 years ago when you had a lot of civil unrest and inequality between black people and white. Even black women were being heavily victimized. But now in the 21st century or the 20th century, yeah, he wrote this book in the 21st century, 2010. What are black women facing that makes it so hard for them to succeed? You'd think now with interracial dating and online dating, it would be easier than ever for black women to get connected.
And then I also, I've always been interested in different types of family forms. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. My mother died when I was very young. She died when I was 9. My father was 50 years old when I was born. So
mine too. Oh my God. Yes.
That's unusual. So
yes.
he was, had the task, right? Being a father to this little boy, without a mother. And,
Again, this was something I didn't like. He turns around and says raising the children without a mother, but statistics show children who are raised by a single father tend to do better than those raised by a single mother. So the fact that he was like, I was a little boy, but I didn't have a mother, again, it speaks to that matriarchal mindset. Because at the end of the day, after a certain age, children need their fathers more anyway. And it's like, I get it, you want the nurturing for the child, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, you can see how matriarchal thinking is passed from generation to generation, where it's like the world is going to end if there's no mother in the picture. And so it's a little bit, DJ Neff, stop making me want popcorn. It's, again, you can see that this matriarchal mindset is passed from generation to generation.
At a time where, most people did have 2 parents, and so I had a sense early on, I guess, of having a different type of family. I realized that while having a different type of family, in our case, not having my mother there, was certainly a challenge. There was also a great strength in that different type of family, even though it wasn't the traditional type of family. So I think all these things came together. My academic interests, my relationship with my sisters, and then also growing up without a mother in a different type of family, it makes me think about how to help other people see possibilities in their own lives that might not be the norm.
So your book came out before mine, and I remember those times. It's almost like people. I think your book has been out for a decade, and mine has been out for 8 years.
Online therapy. Okay.
It was a very different conversation back then. So take me back when you first released the book and the reception that you got from particularly Black media and Black people. What was that like?
Wow. Well, let me just start by saying the issue of interracial relationships, that has always been a controversial issue in American life. Part of the story of my book, right, is that Black women should, feel free to live the life they want, shouldn't feel bad about having a partner of a different race, should want to find a man or partner who's best for them, whatever his or her race is, right? So that's kind of the goal of my book. And just saying that, though, was very controversial, and it elicited a lot of negative response. There were, some women, often younger women, who said, wow, this was life-changing. I can see the world in a different way. But then there were other women also, I remember one older Black woman in particular, who said very directly, she said, you should be ashamed of yourself for suggesting that, Black women should, be open to relationships with non-Black men. And she, said that I was not a credit to the race, but like a shame, or, like I should be ashamed of myself as being a member of the race. There were Black men who were also upset. Sometimes these conflicts would erupt even in the middle of a family. I remember a friend I was talking to who's older, and he had a daughter who was in her 20s. And, he started talking about how, no black women need to be with black men, and that's unnecessary, and why would they do that? And he went on, and you can see his daughter sitting not far from him, and she was getting upset because she felt like who are you to tell me what I should do?
Right.
So even back then in the household, the daughter's like, you can't tell me what to do. So even the institutional disrespect, even when the father's in the home, is still sown. I remember having this conversation, with my stepmom and everything, and my siblings, and she was saying, like, to her, the other set, my half siblings, you guys can't date out, which obviously it didn't transpire that way in the end, but whatever. And then she said, and that goes for you as well. And that stayed with me. But it seems like sometimes, even when you have a father in the home, these young people, they're just like, especially these young girls, are just like, I just don't respect what you have to say. So, this whole idea that the man was abusive and controlling, and he's very, possessive over black women. Again, it's that matriarchal narrative that the black man is somehow the boogeyman.
Her daughter struggled for control, with the daughter saying, I want to do what I want to do. And the father saying, like, well, no, there's certain things you should not do. So I saw a lot of that dynamic. We had an event in DC at Busboys and Poets, big bookstore in DC, and there literally was almost a fight again between the older black man and the younger black woman over the same issue of him telling her what to do, her wanting to make her own decisions and not be controlled by him. So it was very...
Again, there's that black men are abusive, controlling narrative. I mean, let's think about when he was 9 years old coming up. Okay, boomer generation, a generation of men who were told that men are the worst things on the planet, and they're oppressive and they're abusive. And this is why a lot of these boomers, older black men, they are often complicit in the gynocracy, because they came out of an era where they were constantly being told that women need rights, and they're being oppressed and they're being victimized. And unfortunately, that spilled over into being passed down to generation to generation.
Controversial. I was on, the book was featured on the cover of Essence magazine at the time. I talked to Susan Taylor just through by chance, as it turned out, and she said that was one of the most contentious editorial discussions that they had about whether it's appropriate for a black women's magazine that's focused on black empowerment, right? And is a race-oriented magazine to talk about empowerment, even if it means not being coupled with the black man.
And that's interesting. Shout out again to Obsidian. He made a good point that this magazine is supposed to be about promoting black love. So why would you then put an article about going to find love that's black if one of the people in the relationship isn't black? And that's a valid question. And, again, it's like a lot of the times people will say, oh, well, where have these mainstream media outlets bashed black men? But if it actually went through, then unfortunately that's a slight against black men. And so women say, oh, well, you have this group of hideous men on social media who sit around all day bashing black women, but they forget the decades of media that has been, slick dissing black men all along, and the way the mainstream media portrays them, it's such a double standard.
It was a hard choice for them because they didn't know where they wanted to fit. So there's a lot of tension there.
It's interesting because in your book you talk about how, I believe it was Essence or Ebony, that they, back in 1987, did an article complaining about all the black men going to marry white women, and it was a whole feature article. And I remember when I was doing research for my book, I pulled it up, and the truth of the matter there is, and you make it plain in the
Now
book,
here's where
that
Christelyn, as
black
usual,
men
gets a bit confused.
marry at twice the rate, and this was back in 2010 when the book came out. It was 2010, correct?
So black men marry out at twice the rate. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
Black men marry twice as much, and at the time it was more than twice as much. So it's
what?
very interesting to me, because I understand from an ego perspective why black men would have an issue with that.
With the issue with what? This bit here, Christelyn doesn't even know what to say. All right? Think about this. If one black woman dates out, 2 to 3 black men date out. Why would black men care if black women are dating out when twice as many of them have already walked off? That statement made absolutely no sense. Now, if black women, which is what's happening, which is really what this is all about, black women upset that they cannot compete with men when it comes to dating out, the statistics show that black men have more options. They've always been more desirable. Non-black women find black men more desirable than non-black men find black women. That's what's really getting Christelyn worked up and her ilk. Okay? They cannot compete with black men when it comes to dating out, because for years, twice as many black men have been successfully able to date out as black women. So when you hear black women bragging and threatening that they're going to divest, the question I always ask is, divest to where? To whom? If twice as many black men are successful at dating out, why are you trying to threaten leaving when twice as many black men have left? And let's be clear, even if it's between 75 to 83% of black men, are with black women, that's still a lot of black men. Why are you worried about the 17 to up to maybe 25% of black men who are leaving? And, once again, I'm going to bite on Obsidian. He's like, the caliber and the kind of men these women want, these are the ones who've realized I don't have to settle for black women. And I'm not saying that black women are bad. I'm not saying that black women are low value. But when you think about, I'm going to touch on this a bit later, when you think about what black men sometimes have to go through to become successful, when they have those options, they're not always going to pick a black woman. So here Christelyn is trying to cobble together an argument, but the argument doesn't make any sense. Black men are more successful at dating out. Why would they have an ego about black women dating out when twice as many have already left? That doesn't make any sense.
Knowing what we know about the shortage of marriageable black men, you mentioned that there's an echo. There's like a really bad echo.
Like if there's 2 million more black women than black men, some divesting is not going to change the fact that the odds are still in the black man's favor. That doesn't make any sense. But she knows what she said there doesn't really make sense.
You mentioned that the black women, I know we all can understand that, men have egos and men compete with each other.
Look at this guy.
And, we understand that. But
he's laughing, but he doesn't even know what he's laughing at.
What do you think was going on with the women who have been complaining for over two decades prior about, their men marrying interracially, and then you coming in and presenting the option? What do you think that was about?
Look, Gordon Ramsay's going to swear now, and I bet you any money no one's asking him to apologize.
It's easy to cook on TV. There's talented producers, there's editors, and there's all sorts of things that make you look good. Before any TV came anywhere near my career, I'd mastered my craft. You'll see a side to me across this class that I don't think has ever been shown before.
Is he?
Nice skills.
Did he have surgery? Because he looks like he's a bit younger.
Well, I think that, first of all, you are correct. Right? Black men have married in recent decades interracially at a much higher rate than black women, right? Between 2 and 3 times as many black men as black women married across racial lines. There's a lot of regional variation there. I mean, numbers are much higher on the West Coast, say, than they are in the Deep South and so forth. But it's consistent that black men marry at much higher rates interracially. And, I think among, many black people, and I feel this myself, among many black people, there is a sense of, we have been so oppressed in some ways historically, and have been so disadvantaged in society that one wants to, you want to have a black family and build a strong black family and be kind of an embodiment of the race and try to move forward together. And I had that sense myself, right? And I was raised with that, and a lot of African Americans are raised with that strong sense of racial unity. So I think it genuinely does pain black women and many black people to look out and see so many black men, in particular successful black men, finding partners of other races. So when Barack Obama ran for office, for instance, it probably mattered.
That's not the question she asked you. She asked you if black men are dating out 2 to 3 times the amount, why were they upset when black women started dating out? And he completely missed that and then started talking about why black women would be upset about black men dating out. But what I wanted to touch on here is the fact that he mentioned the oppression. A lot of the times, black women on social media, your Christelyns, your Chrissy, your Cynthia G's, they literally say, without saying it, that the black man is just defective. He's just inherently flawed and a failure. Okay? And so this is why this interview yet again is kind of a bit of a fail for Christelyn, because once again, she picks somebody who completely undermines her own argument. Okay?
A lot to many voters that he had a black wife. If he didn't have a black wife, a lot of black people would have reacted differently to him. And that's something that's deeply ingrained in many of us.
It's normal. Most people date within their race. Most people date according to proximity and culture. I mean, again, stop trying to paint out like somehow these women are shackled by the ankles with Stockholm syndrome. It's not like that. People just date according to culture and proximity. Most people want to date people that look like them. And I find more black men talk about wanting black babies than black women.
But it's also the case that we live in a time when people are going to be able to make choices about who to be with. And, it's a big world out there with lots of people and lots of options. And it's also hard to find a partner that you can stick with and have the sort of relationship you imagine. So then the question is, if it's hard to find a partner and you have all these people of different races, should you try to limit yourself to people of one race? And my view is maybe not.
So you told me separately and that we've had these conversations, and I do believe you said in your book that who you marry is the single.
This is a crucial bit. This is a crucial bit.
Most important decision that you're going to make in your life. Can you expand on what you meant by that?
Who's this now? Oh, online thing.
That is definitely true. We might modify that to say who you marry and have children with.
Hey, finally the man found his testicles and he came out with something relevant. And the reason why I say that is this. I keep seeing this thing on Instagram where people keep saying that who you marry is the most significant decision you'll make in your life. And I'm thinking, if such a small number of black people are getting married, what does that say for the rest of the community? So well done for him for correcting that error. And it's crucial because we know in the Black community, 70% of the, births are out of wedlock. So that bit is crucial, what he
Because
said.
if you marry someone and doesn't work out, you can divorce and never see the person again. So once you marry them and have children with them, then you are having a relationship for life with that person.
Hey, I think this is the only bit where I almost gave the guy a standing ovation, because again, Christelyn keeps trying to hammer Kevin with this woman who's got this child, 35, with a son, and it's like when Black men or men in the manosphere critique women about being baby mamas, that it's like it's not getting into their heads. It's not about hating the woman. It's not about hating the child. It's about saying this is a lifelong commitment. As long as, in fact, even God forbid, if the child should not survive, you will always be so and so's baby mama or so and so's baby daddy. You will always be connected because of that child. And we know that the environment in which you raise children is obviously going to impact how they turn out. It impacts the next generation. So when we talk about generational wealth and issues in the Black community, who you have children with and how you raise them is a significant factor. So kudos to him for actually having the courage to say the truth.
Together, you will still have a relationship. So the person you choose to become a parent with, single most important decision of your life by far. That person not only is someone who will always be there in one form or another, but they can affect your life for good or for ill. You can shape their life for good or for ill.
So let's go back to Jessica, average at best. What did she say? She said, had I not picked the men I picked when I was younger, i.e. men like her baby daddy and struggle rappers, I could have been further along. And also, she didn't say this, I could have met Mr. Right and been married. She doesn't understand that the kind of guy she wants maybe didn't want her because she had a young child. And a lot of women, because we have this baby mama culture, they do not understand how significant a woman coming into a relationship with a child is to the man. Because they're so subjective in their thought processes, they think, well, it's just a child. I love my child, or I don't need you to be a father to my child. And so they just think, well, it's a package. Like, who coined this expression? It's a package. Like, I don't even know why somebody would. I understand they're trying to pretty the situation up to make the woman not feel so bad. But why would you think a man would look at you and think, wow, a ready-made family, I can't wait to snap that up? It's a little bit bizarre now when you think about it. But how many women have you heard say, me and my child are a package or something? And it's like, you should like that. We have a culture that endorses that kind of behavior. And a lot of women don't realize that, I've heard women say, and even celebrities say, I don't mind not getting married, but I'd like to have a child. It's like the child is a lifelong commitment where even a spouse is not. So I'm glad he broke it down.
People we have in our lives are influences that can dramatically shape our lives. And so, sometimes I think people don't realize the importance, frankly, of trying to make the right choice in that relationship. They imagine.
Okay, again, making the right choice early. Don't go down the wrong path and then try to course correct. As Christelyn said before, you're not your mistakes, which was a video she created to counteract Kevin. She did that video to counteract the video about baby mamas and if they can find high value men. And she tried to say, well, it's not ideal, but you can bounce back, blah, blah, blah. And every man that she's brought on has actually confirmed what Kevin said regarding single mothers. And he's saying, we need to help Black people get it right the first time so that they don't have to be 35, making 100,000 average at best with a 13-year-old asking Kevin Samuels, 10, 20 years down the line, why I can't find a high value man.
Imagine that you can make a choice, it's not quite the right choice, and that people are going to change, and things will get better, and things might be bad now, but this person is going to be different. And usually that doesn't work out.
Yeah. I brought your book because I wanted to, I bookmarked a few.
So you see how Christelyn does not address that point. I hammer on this a lot. The cycle of poverty in the Black community is heavily connected to the single parent rate in the Black community. The children being born out of wedlock has a significant impact on their ability to be socially upwardly mobile. Because at the end of the day, if you come from a poor family, you're more likely to have a poverty mindset, a lack mindset, struggling. You're less likely to be enriched and developed, which is going to impact your ability to move up educationally and also therefore economically. And instead of her hitting on that point and saying it's true, for those of you ladies who are childless, please remain childless until you actually find a spouse. I know she often says, marry before you carry, no wedding, no womb. But because we have a culture outside of these, this square screen and the four walls of our home that tells us constantly that this is an acceptable way to be. If you look at Real Housewives of Atlanta, these are rich, beautiful women, and they made sure the youngest, most attractive one became a baby mama, Portia. You have Phaedra, who's an entertainment lawyer who picks up a man fresh out of jail. You have Cynthia, who's got a man who's living off of her like a parasite. Half of them are baby mamas in that show. It's by design that they consistently put images of Black women struggling and making the wrong decision before us so that we can be gradually conditioned to think this is okay and acceptable. And Christelyn does not address this point at all, even though he said, even if he in the book had said, who you marry is critical, he's going to say that because he comes from an upper class background. The way the wealthy approach marriage is different from the way the working class and the middle class approach it, because the upper class people understand the principle to do with connection. I'm not just marrying you for love and good feelings. I'm merging into your family because there's a mutually beneficial exchange that's going to take place, not just between me and you as husband and wife, but between our families, because we are tightening and extending our network. You've got a cousin who's a lawyer, an uncle who's a doctor, this, and I've got this, and an engineer, and through time we can pull our resources and our knowledge together and keep that wealth amongst us. The rich understand the benefits of marrying and merging. Working class and middle class people, not maybe a bit less, do not see marriage that way. They look at it from the overly romantic perspective. Now, I'm saying you have to have both. The scripture tells you have to love your spouse. Husband, lay down your life, be willing to lay down your life for your spouse. But also you have to understand that there is a merger aspect to marriage. So when he turns around and says in his book, who you marry is one of the singly most important factors, because from his background, he understands the importance of picking a spouse who's actually going to help you advance your career. For example, she brought on Jordan Harbinger, who has an Oriental wife. And she went to school, she got educated in accounting, but now she does the books for his business. And he was able to say, my business is what it is because of my wife's help and support. So in that world, they understand how a good spouse can make or break you. But that does not apply to the vast majority of people who are probably middle class, maybe working class, who do not see marriage as a merger. So for him, he has to correct that statement, because he understands, although a lot of Black people are not getting married, they are still having a lot of children. Well, not a lot of children, but, they're still having children. But she doesn't address that talking point at all.
Century, and this was, now it's 60 years. African Americans most unmarried people in our nation by far. We are the least likely to marry and the most likely to divorce. We maintain fewer committed and enduring relationships than any other group. And then you go on to say, although the African American marriage decline is especially pronounced among the poor, it is apparent as well among affluent doctors, lawyers, corporate professionals. Black women of all socioeconomic classes remain single in part because the ranks of Black men have decimated by incarceration, educational failure, and economic disadvantage.
Okay, so this was the other bit. I'm so happy that he actually said it. Now, when the person sent me these videos, one of them was a TED Talk. I said, this video is not particularly good. There's no detail in there. Where are the statistics that you're telling me about, right? But I'm glad that they were able to talk about this on a Black platform, because I said, to be honest with you, he knows that racism and institutional racism plays a part. But every time I saw him, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're on a white platform. You're either on TED Talks or you're at a white campus somewhere. So it's going to be very hard for you when you're standing on a white man's platform in front of a white audience to turn around and say, the reason why Black women can't find husbands is because you lot keep locking all the men up. Okay? So I'm glad that he actually was here to say this bit outwardly. Because when you tell, like I said, a lot of these Black women about the fact that incarceration, the fact that children, Black boys in particular, are often persecuted more than anyone else in the classroom, they're discriminated against in the workplace. When you tell Black women this, they often say you're just making excuses for Black male failure. But if you have disadvantage and dysfunction at home, you go to school and you're disenfranchised, and you're being closed out of the job market, how on earth are you going to have a plethora of successful men? The struggle, the uphill struggle, is just too hard to climb for a lot of them. So I'm so happy that he touched on this, because it's not a Black man who she doesn't respect saying it. It's a Black man who she claims to respect, acknowledging that Black men have a lot of struggles. That's why the kind of men that she says she would want, academic, accomplished businessmen, certain figures in the bank, there's a shortage of them.
And so, like I mentioned to you, my primary demographic are Black women who are educated and upwardly mobile. And in the past, women who follow me have been told that,
oh, get ready for the straw man.
Yes, get your education and be successful, but reach back and don't expect too much. Don't expect to find a Black man who matches your professional, where you are in education and in salary, and that you should just accept, if you're a neurosurgeon, that you should accept the plumber.
Now you see, Obsidian absolutely killed it. He did such a good job here. He really did. Because it was like the percentage of Black women in STEM is so small. But once again, you have this exaggerated, hyperbolic statement where it's like all of these women who are, high-flying engineers and doctors are all with people who are beneath them, like plumbers. And again, this is how a lot of this is to do with titles. This is to do with image. It's not actually to do even with income. Because I was watching Millionaire Matchmaker, and a guy was a millionaire through rubbish trucks. He literally had a fleet of private rubbish trucks, and he became a millionaire picking up people's garbage. So there are people who are millionaires, or at least six-figure earners, through blue-collar, labor-intensive work. But because they want the title and they want the prestige of being able to brag about who their man is, even when the man makes the money, he still doesn't have enough street credibility for them to see him. So is there really a shortage of eligible Black men who make good money? Or is it just that you want the guy who has a certain type of look? That's why you don't see them. Because I have people coming in my comment section saying, I do blue collar work and I'm easily making, clear of 6 figures. But because maybe the person is does building work or is shoveling garbage or something, that guy gets overlooked. But this hyperbolic statement where it's like, oh, if you're a neurosurgeon, you have to be with a garbage man. She's basically low-key saying all black men are just like garbage men. As if there's no men in between a garbage man who could be making very good money if he's the owner of the company and a neurosurgeon. The vast majority of black women are not on neurosurgeon level. So why are you behaving as if all these women are so academically accomplished and all the black men are just down in the dumps? So again, Christelyn always has to go too far.
I mean, you've seen numerous Tyler Perry movies that reinforce the point.
Tyler Perry movies that black women support and love to watch. It's black women that made Tyler Perry a billionaire. It's not black men. Because black men don't want to watch other black men in dresses.
What is the damage of doing that for black women?
Maybe
why are there so
as a
many
young
commercials
corporate
in this
woman,
film?
telling yourself that there's just no good guys out there. Well, let me tell you, in the meantime, other women are fighting them. In this video,
Why are they going and taking Christelyn Karazin's course? I don't think so.
Yeah, so I think these are tough issues, and life is hard, and it's hard to find a partner. It is. It's hard for everyone, and there's so much stuff that comes at you in life that you need to find a person that is as best matched to you as possible, and that means a person who, you don't feel like you're trying to sort of uplift them or help them. I mean, you want someone who is, it's like if you're investing in a company, you don't want to invest in a company that's struggling.
So basically what he's about to say is this: no one cares about your academic accomplishments. Find the guy that best suits you, even if he does not have that kind of money. He doesn't say it, but actually he's thinking, no one cares about your accomplishments. Just get a man that fits with who you are. If he's got a job and he's doing okay, just get on with it. And he's got 2 sisters who are single, and we know that they are more than past their prime, because if his mother died when he was 9, I'm pretty convinced that he was the last child of all of them. Okay, maybe not, but I doubt very much that he was the oldest. Okay, could have been, I don't know. But the bottom line is this: if we can see how ageable this man is, his sisters are not far behind or ahead. And yet they probably had many guys that liked them and approached them, and he watched them turn one down after the other to now be old women who are single. These are the women that Kevin is talking about. You will die alone. Women like this man's sisters, who had opportunities to get it right, turned down a lot of guys, probably said, I'm focusing on my career, I'm focusing on my education. The guys that approach me are beneath me, and they kept on rejecting guys, and now they're elderly women and never married. So when Kevin says these women will die alone, he's not trying to be nasty. This guy has actually proven it, that you could be accomplished academically, but if you don't know how to have relationships, you will die alone.
I actually want to invest in a company that's doing really well already, and it fits really well with you as a company, so that together you can do even more.
Yes.
But you need to be realistic about what you're each going to be able to contribute to each other. And too often people have hopes that things are going to change.
Christelyn's got that better, face again.
And that somehow we're going to work it out, even though there are warning signs there from the very beginning that this might not be the best match.
This man is, I think somebody switched the gas on and it's starting to get a bit hot in here. I think this man has realized he's a man and not a woman. I said I wasn't going to say anything derogatory, but I couldn't help. But, let's give this man a round of applause for finding his cojones and saying something to check her. Christelyn has gone into that trance-like state again. She's like, this is not what we agreed in the memo. And he's like, no, I'm going to speak my truth, God damn it.
And so that's what
it's
happens.
Like, be realistic.
My message to people really is to open, think big and open up yourself, open up your heart, broaden your horizons, broaden your perspective, truly embrace the fact that you deserve the best.
Boo! Nobody deserves anything in life. I really hate this statement so much. You could put in the most amount of work and still not get what you quote unquote deserve. No one deserves anything. And again, this concept of you deserve is why a lot of women are single. Because if they feel like they've got everything together, they're obviously not going to examine themselves to see what they could be lacking. And as a result, that's what the thing that they refuse to see as lacking, that's what's stopping them from getting a partner. So this idea of you deserve, again, very emotional, very feminine. Oh, he's doing so well, but I take back my clap now.
You deserve to be happy. Life, in fact, is difficult enough already without it being made more of a struggle. And you want someone that's going to uplift your life rather than someone who's going to be a project for your life. So that's kind of the change of orientation.
She started blinking when he said broaden your horizons. Yeah, she's probably having some kind of glitch.
And I think part of what's changed in the last several years is that the taboo on...
Christelyn has very visceral reactions. She cannot hide her emotions very well at all. When somebody says something she doesn't like, she can't style it out. It's printed literally across her face. When he says something that she feels funny about, you see almost like she powers down, and you've got to kind of reboot her because she kind of goes into like a suspended state of not animation, and then she kind of powers up and is like, doo-doo-doo-doo, and then she comes back alive. When he says something that she likes, the arms are going, she's, flaying, she's laughing, she's giggling. But as soon as somebody says something that's touching her, her whole demeanor drops. She cannot hide her reaction well at all.
Interracial marriage has diminished, and there has been a taboo where it's kind of, people are a little bit ashamed about it. You're not quite proud of it. It's something that you feel ambivalent about. You have some relatives that say bad things about you. And all that started to shift, right? You look at New York City, the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, his wife is African-American. So we have black woman, white man in the public eye in New York.
Yes.
Our next vice president, black woman, husband is a white man. Kamala Harris is an extraordinary person. And she found a man that she thought was a good match for her. And I say, God bless her. I mean, that's what people should do. And you shouldn't try to...
Why did she say it like that?
Because you
What's
feel
the controversy?
some obligation, or because you feel guilty, or because you don't think you deserve the best. Because you do deserve the best.
No, you don't. You get what you put in. You get what you put in. If you put in the best, you might get the best. But people don't owe us anything. This mentality that you just deserve stuff, that's going to keep a lot of women single.
I'm really glad you said that, because black women often get the message that we do not deserve.
Oh, here we go.
That we are so fundamentally flawed in down to our genetic makeup. And
no, I've never heard anybody criticize black women on their genetic makeup. But what I would say is this: why did you have to write etiquette lessons and teaching women how to be more feminine, telling women all the things that they need to change, from get rid of the baby mama culture to no wedding, no womb, to lose the weight and all these things? If black women are so on point, there would have been no need for you to put together an entire course to help them get married. The fact that they are not getting married is evidence there's a problem. So it's not the witch hunt of the manosphere, which is what she's alluding to. you know, these horrible men online just bashing black women all day for clicks and views. You yourself have seen these women are fundamentally flawed. That's why they cannot get married. This is why she had a meltdown about a week ago, saying, I throw in the towel, I concede. Kevin, you win. I've done this for you. I've done that for you. I've written a book that nearly became a film. I've been on TV. I've put together courses, etiquette lessons. And you're over there watching him? So there's a reason why you had to do all of that. Because the women have a problem that they're not addressing on the scale that they need to address it. So to then try to say, well, there's just a group of horrid black men who just pick on us all day, you know, it's too much.
Usually, and I think I can speak frankly, because I know that you're somewhat removed, but
you're removed because you probably live in a white suburban neighborhood surrounded by white folk. You're culturally white, you know, and you're removed because you're a matriarch. You're somebody who actually panders to the gynocracy. So of course you're removed. Anybody that criticizes black women, he probably would come to the woman's defense.
I just had started to let you know that there is a cottage industry.
There's a cottage industry
of black men.
Of black men.
Actively make money belittling black women and telling them that they don't deserve.
It's funny, you've been making videos and you're kind, Chrissy, Sinji, Paris. You guys have a cottage industry disrespecting black men all the time. You don't see that as a problem. That's not belittling and degrading black men to make money off of videos, talking about colorism all day and whinging about black men and who they choose and all this garbage. They're defeated, they're broke, they're dusty. They're the white men of the black community. They hate us. You know, they this, they that. You don't see any problem with that. But when black men get a voice and actually have an opportunity to give their side of the story, all of a sudden it's a cottage industry and a witch hunt.
You know, the good things that they're all fat, that, you know, we're masculine and nobody will want us. And from you said to me, I said, well, I can send you some stuff, and you were like, nah, that's okay. And
the blinking is a sign of excitement.
When you did that, I had this thought of, you know, real men aren't on
you win, according to her.
A platform.
So today's challenge is on Anyone Can Trade. I'm going to teach my gardener. Now look, if he becomes a success and I end up having to mow my own lawn, things have gone really bad.
Oh please, that's not your lawn, stop lying.
Downy.
You win, according to her internal scoreboard against black men. Exactly. Again, Christelyn just played her hand completely. She let everybody know that deep down, this is not about truth. This is not about helping black women. You know, the thing is this, these black women love to say that it's black men who are competing against black women. But at the end of the day, it's Christelyn that's losing her mind because Kevin is outperforming her. Kevin has the respect of men. Kevin has the respect of women. Kevin is actually the one able to draw huge crowds. After his video went viral, he had 13, I think it peaked at 15,000 live viewers. I mean, that's amazing. Kevin could be on 300,000 subs by the end of the year if they continue to climb. Actually, no. Possible, but I doubt it. Unless he had another viral video, I doubt it. He would have to do a lot of roast shows and like call-in shows. But he's already on 250 something. Okay? So today is what, the 22nd? He's got about a week. I think he would get to maybe 265, 270 by the end of the year, which is still amazing considering at the beginning of the year he was on around 50,000. He's literally nearly got 5 times as many subscribers, or he has 5 times as many subscribers in just 1 year. So really and truly, Christelyn Karazin's gripe is that he was able to do what she could not. And as much as she tries to project that black men are the ones competing with black women, really and truly, this is the truth. These black women are fighting against black men, and they're mad and they're bitter that they're losing. Product placement behind both of them, because also behind him he has the book as well. So she wants to equalize herself with him by showing we're both authors. I've got my swirling book and you've got your Is Marriage for White People book. She wants Kevin Samuels' money. Yeah, they do, because at the end of the day, the more people who get what they need from Kevin and not from her, the less they're going to donate, the less they're going to watch. So a lot of what this is really damage control to try and claw back some of those subscribers. You had to resub twice this week. I think there was something else I had to resubscribe to as well, because I was thinking, how come I'm not subscribed? I'm pretty sure I clicked the subscribe button.
Other women, real men of substance, are out there.
So there you go with the passive aggressive shots again. Real men of substance. So again, because people like Kevin are making good money online, they're not men of substance because they criticize black women.
Building, doing things, and so.
Well, building and doing things for what? Everywhere you go, you see these women. These black men don't build anything. These black men don't, they don't lead. But build what for who? For women that will say, if you make less money than me, I don't respect you. Build what for who? I mean, again, this is what's the word I'm looking for? They behave as though all white men are out here conquering the planet and building white Wakanda. And that's not what's happening. Most people are average working for somebody else. And the point of the manosphere was not to go and build per se. It was to help black men first and foremostly break free of the matriarchy, not learn how to build things for women.
What would you say to a young girl who's, say, in her early 20s and she's getting these messages because, quite frankly, black people are the biggest consumers of social media? YouTube is one of them. I know people who, and I think I'm starting to get that way myself. I'm watching a lot of the things that the entertainment that I get is on YouTube. And when you have these men who are dominating the argument, going viral, and
okay, so this is another lie. How do you work out that these men are dominating the argument when the vast majority of black women don't know the manosphere even exists? They're not really watching that content. But when you look at Paris, who hasn't been doing that long, and she's got 270,000 subscribers. When you look at I Am Eloho, when you look at all of these people who have, getting close to 300,000, who is a woman, a female, really more likely to be influenced by? Paris, or a lot of the guys in the manosphere who just make content and sometimes they barely have 4,000 subs. So this idea that these black women are somehow being affected by men on the internet is just another straw man to basically use this guy as an attack dog to attack the manosphere. Even though the manosphere was not created to speak to women, it was created to speak to men. But the reason why she has to throw these passive-aggressive shots in there is because these men are speaking the truth. They're calling her out on her garbage. And she wants them to be silenced. This kind of reminds me of the story of John the Baptist when, Herodia, I think it was married to her brother, her former husband's brother. And John the Baptist would stand outside every day preaching against them, saying this is a disgrace that you leave one brother and go to another. And Herodia set up the king and said, I want my daughter to dance for you. And whatever he asks, when he asks you, what do you want for the dancing? Say, I want the head of John the Baptist. So the daughter of Herodias danced for Herod. And then when he asked her, what do you want? She said, give me the head of John the Baptist. These guys that Christelyn recruits are like Herodias made to dance. They dance for Christelyn like a fool. And then afterwards, they end up being complicit in the destruction of innocent men. She's the one in the wrong, but she recruits these men to be her attack dog all the time. And that's, that's why
support them and
he can't be respected as well, because Obsidian and even Mr. Research said many of the brothers, when this book came out, they tried to contact this man and he refused to respond to them. When he was dragging and critiquing black men were trying to make contact with him for him to explain why he wrote what he wrote. He can't find the time to approach black men who actually would challenge what he said, but he has time to sit down here with Christelyn and talk rubbish about black men and almost co-sign her foolish argument about black men online, knowing full well that what they're saying is true.
Women are less than. What do you think of that? As a
so now she's trying to utilize her female subscribers to feel like.
What do you say to all of that?
I'm trying to protect black women.
Well, we do have discussions about social media in our house. So my wife is African American. I have 3 boys, and we have spent a lot of time thinking about how to raise these boys. And we spend a lot of time talking, or sometimes talking about social media. But one of the things we agree on, frankly, is that sometimes less social media is better. Because there's a lot of venom, there's a lot of toxicity, a lot of foolishness. There's a lot on social media that will bring you down. So,
namely stuff put out by Christelyn, because none of the stuff that she actually puts out is really.
You want to understand that that's kind of the people with voices who want to use them in a certain way, but that need not be your reality, right? So that's point number 1, is to recognize that. And what I think a lot of people don't realize, especially given social media influences and all that we hear out in the world, is that black women are desired more than they realize by men of all races.
By who and for what? Sex is not marriage. If black men are dating out at the rate of 2 to 3 times the amount of black women, who is desiring them for what? Does this guy hear what he's saying? Just because they're getting picked to sleep with or to be a cash cow doesn't mean that they're getting married.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you so much for validating our existence.
If you have, there are people in the world who will not like you, or will put you down or denigrate you because of your race and your sex, and you don't need those people. You can move on from those people.
That could not be black men, because black men are the only men on the planet that call their women queens and goddess. So where is the denigration? There's no other race on the planet where their men talk about their women like this. So you cannot be talking about black men, because black men are the most accommodating and the most courteous is not the right word. You know which word I mean.
Many of those people are non-black. Some of those people might even be black, right? Just because a man is black doesn't mean that he's in your corner, right? So you need to understand that some of these people are not going to be in your corner, and they're not for you, and you just keep on walking. But also understand that there will be people of all races who will value you, who will be able to lift you up, who will treasure you, and perhaps would be a good partner. So one of the things that I think people need to do now in the world, right, is to stop putting each other in these little boxes and to understand that the sort of relationship that you want to have with someone, that person you're relating to is not confined or limited by the package that they're in, right? They may not look the way you initially imagined them to look, but they can still look good, and they might have the other things that you want and need in a person. so that you can have a good relationship.
So this goes back to, don't think that you know exactly what you need or want, or don't lead with your accomplishments in your career. See people for who they are, and you may have to settle. Okay, that's what he's basically saying.
And that's true whether we're you're talking about romantic relationships, even when you talk about friendships and even work relationships. People need to be open to connecting with the humanity of other people in ways that can enliven them and strengthen them and help them to be better people.
So one of the arguments I hear is, if I marry a white man,
Now listen to this. Listen to this.
I ain't gonna have black ashy baby.
You're not gonna have what?
In ways that can enliven them and strengthen them and help them to be better people.
So one of the arguments I hear is, if I marry a white man, I ain't gonna have black ashy babies. I'm not gonna have them chocolate babies. I don't know. So,
Like, I never hear black women say that. But in where I come from, ashy means your skin is dry and needs a bit of cream on it. So I don't understand how she worked out that black women are calling their own kids ashy. Unless you're talking about like charcoal, or maybe she meant charcoal, but she said ash. But if she meant ashy as in dry and crusty, then we know who is the one perpetuating colorism. It's black women calling their own kids ashy. It's not black men. Black men are like, I want children that look like me. But Christelyn claims that the women call their own kids ashy.
that when you were out doing your tour?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of anxiety about that. But there'll be chocolate enough. Is the short response. There will be chocolate enough. But even more important, they will be your babies.
What does that mean?
I mean, children is parenting is a
not really. You could be a surrogate, but what does that even mean?
That's the one job that you can't give up once you get it.
They'll be the next door neighbors.
I don't know a parent who doesn't love their children, even though they come out looking all kind of ways, frankly, right? And they come out being all kind of people too.
Yes.
Exactly, a totally colorist
we shouldn't even
statement.
call it reproduction, because reproduction makes it seem like you're making a new you. You're like reproducing,
Right.
but you're really just producing.
Yes.
Children.
You see, so now he's trying to smooth over this conversation again about the single mothers and how at the end of the day, some of these women will say, well, I did the best I could. And it's like, well, it kind of wasn't enough. It still kind of created a monster that society has to deal with. And so he's trying to bring it back now so it doesn't sound like he's picking on single mothers. But
they are their own people.
So now it's like they're their own people. It doesn't matter how you raise them or what environment you brought them into the world.
You have to love them, no matter who they are and how they are, and no matter how much they drive you nutty. You have to love them and nurture them.
Yes.
And obviously he knows Christelyn's oldest daughter is kind of on a different path. So he has to be very careful how he addresses this conversation of parent-child relationship, knowing the kind of relationship maybe she has with her own daughter.
Whoever the other parent is. So parenting allows us to grow that way, and it's another opportunity to realize that, sometimes life is not going to follow the script that we might have in our mind when we started.
Okay, this is another fallacy because he comes from that middle-class world. A lot of the people that Christelyn is trying to help never had a script. They only discovered there was a thing called a script after they'd made all their mistakes. In his whitewashed world, middle-class, upper-class world, people have plans. But the kind of women that Christelyn is trying to help course correct, they never had a plan in the first place.
Might still be on the path that we need to be on. People have to embrace that.
And what's interesting is that, think about the cost, and I think that it's important to point out too that we have a very high out of wedlock rate. So while our marriage rates are low, we have a high out of wedlock
Okay,
rate.
so she finally
So
addresses
what
it.
is the cost long term of children who are born in single parent household, just so you can say that you had your black ashy
Okay, so here we
baby?
go with another straw man. The women are not having children out of wedlock because they wanted black babies. Okay? They had the black babies because they wanted a baby. Okay? I don't understand what's hard about that for Christelyn to get. These women, I have literally had conversations with women who are like, I don't mind not getting married, but I still want to have children. So it's a lack of care. It's a lack of forethought. It's a valuing more on the title of being a mother than a wife that is causing so many black women to have children out of wedlock. They're not having children out of wedlock just because they want to have black babies. And by insinuating that's what's happening here, she's basically driving the wedge between black men and black women actually more deeper. Because if her rhetoric is you're having a black baby because you want to have black babies, I don't know how to explain this. She's basically saying that the reason why women become single mothers is because they choose to have children with black men. And it's like, so therefore, if you don't want to be a single mother, don't get with a black man. But the fact that you had a black child has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that you were not on birth control and you wanted a kid. It has absolutely nothing to do with who you pick to be the father of the child. Because it's not black women who are out here saying, I want black babies. Black women are the ones talking about the eye color and the texture of the hair, and they know if they get with a mixed or a white person, they will have that soft hair. So this is a complete straw man argument that has nothing to do with anything that the black man is doing.
Yes, so raising a child is hard, and raising a child with one parent is harder than raising a child with two parents. And I think that people who've done it or who've done both would agree with that. That's not it's not only
He's struggling. He's still got the statistic of 70% out of wedlock birth rate at the forefront of his mind. And he's like, how can I make this make sense if more than half of the people born in this community, in fact, it's nearly 3/4, are not born in marriage?
not the way we imagine it went down. It actually,
He had to stumble. He's like, this is not what we want, but somehow 3/4 of us, that's what we're doing.
it's probably not the optimal situation.
Not probably. You are a statistics man. You know the statistics around single parent families.
Most people who end up raising a child alone, if they could, do it over again or if they could change it, they might say, well, yeah, sure, I would like some more help here. It would be better to be doing this with someone. So, one way to think about choosing a partner is that you are choosing someone to be the parent of your child. And you're partly choosing that person. I mean, it's perfectly sensible to think about what type of parent would they be, and then what type of partnership can you have with them as you're a parent.
Okay, and as we can see, because of
the two of you as adults,
I don't want black
working
ashy
together, and
babies.
You have a bond, and you raise a child together in a situation that is relatively harmonious, right? And that's really the optimal circumstance for a child to be raised in, and most people, I think, would agree with that view.
See, everyone in the comment section is asking her, why the hell did you say they have to be ashy?
When you're talking about the marriage gap, you say, moreover, the marriage gap between black men and white men actually widens at the top of the income distribution. And I want to talk about this because there's been a lot of conversation about what is a high value.
Oh, here we go again. God, can you just leave it, Christelyn? For God's sake. Just leave Kevin alone. Stop taking all of these passive aggressive shots at him every 5 seconds. Just leave the guy alone.
People say that the high value man is particularly a black man who makes 6 figures or more. But if you read what you say that, I'm going to read it again. Moreover, the marriage gap between black men and white men actually widens at the top of the income distribution. For white men, as income increases, so does the likelihood of marriage. But a black man who earns more than $100,000 per year is less. Y'all hear this? 1,500 people watching right now. I'm going to say it one more again. A black man who earns more than $100,000 per year is less likely to have ever married than a black man who earns $75,000 per year.
What's your point? What's your point, Christelyn? This statement here, right here, this bit right here completely undermines her entire point. Because what she said is, a man making 100,000 is less likely to marry than somebody making 70K. So are you telling your subscribers, get with the man who makes under 100,000? What if you make 100,000? Should you still get with the man who makes under 100,000 because he's more likely to marry you? This is the dilemma you have got yourself into. So let's hear what this brother's going to say.
Can you please explain that a little?
We're going to be electrifying this beautiful VW Beetle with Optimus Energy.
No,
One of their
okay.
customers.
A little bit.
Crazy sideburns.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. This is very controversial. So the basic idea is that for men, if you're more economically stable, right? So if you earn more money, you're more attractive, more appealing to women than if you earn less money, right? That
Exactly. No consistency.
Pretty intuitive. People who are more economically stable are going to be perceived as better partners, and in fact, they may be better partners because they're bringing more to the relationship in some sense than people who earn a lot less. And so, typically, marriage rates increase as you.
Okay, so he fumbled it and he dropped it. The man is the one who decides who gets married. Okay, the man is the one who decides who gets married. Women control sex, men control marriage. So the man is the one who, in other races, when he makes more money, he actually commits to a woman. In the black community, when he makes more money, after a certain point, the likelihood of him committing goes down.
Move up the income ladder. And this is true for blacks and whites. If you look at African American or white people, say, who went to college and earned more money, they're more likely to be married than white people who dropped out of high school, say, and are chronically unemployed. That's a common relationship between income and marriage. But what did strike me, and really prompted a lot of my, further writing about this, is that for African Americans, we see that while being more economically stable increases the likelihood of marriage, at a certain point, the likelihood of marriage decreases. And it decreases among the highest earning black men, the very black men that you would expect to be most in demand.
You don't say.
And, part of the idea, and this is a hard.
No, again, you made a mistake. The men are in demand. The problem is they cannot find eligible wives. And because he's so gynocentric in his thought processes, the matriarchal thinking is baked heavily into the cake, he cannot bring himself to say, a lot of these men that these black women said, go and get a career, get money, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. When those men got on their feet, they looked around and said, we don't see anybody worth building for. We've had to struggle through racism, through economic hardship, through the education system. Now we've made it. We are not reaching back for any of you. So Christelyn can make the face all she wants, when the problem is she doesn't understand that the men that she wants, as you know, other people would say, the Kevin Samuels of the world, they don't want these women. They would rather go abroad or be single than to pick up these women. Remember, he's coming from an affluent white world, it looks like. So in his world, he understands marriage is a partnership. It's a merging of two families, and it's mutually beneficial for growing wealth. But if you're building with the average black woman who is making $30,000 a year and doesn't necessarily bring much to the table, it's not advantageous for the man who has got into that decent position to take on a wife. At least if you do a merger with a white woman who's got some money and a decent family, you know that there's still some connections there. And when you leave with something better than maybe you came into the relationship with. But for these black men who make it into that tax bracket, for them, there is no eligible wife looking for them who is that same color. There just isn't. And with the fetishization, I know some people say you can't really fetishize a man, but with that open up opportunity, because naturally once you get into those circles, you're going to start rubbing shoulders with models, actresses, actors, professionals, women of different races who are socialized correctly, and actually they can match you in terms of skill that they bring to the table. Naturally, a lot of these black men, if they do marry, they're going to marry out. Not all, but some. And some are just going to choose, I don't want anybody. Because actually, he's the one able to say, I don't see a woman on my level. So Christelyn can try to look smug all she wants. The issue here is not a lack of men who are marriageable. The problem here is a lack of marriageable women.
To prove, right? But part of my hypothesis is that one of the reasons that the highest earning and quote most desirable black men might remain unmarried is precisely because they are so desirable and appealing. And this is
now you see again, Christelyn, you've made a mistake. You've made a mistake. Throwing your hands up as if to say, because there are so many black women outnumbering black men, these black men don't need to settle down, is like saying we all stand on the start line, and when the gun goes off, we all just wander off. Well, I'm not going to run if there's only one medal. Everybody runs to get that one medal. That's the point of a race. This is why black men are saying black women are not competitive. Because if you know there's a shortage of eligible black men and you outnumber the black men, 2 million to how many, then you should be competing harder than anybody else for those few men that are there. Instead, you throw in the towel and show up anyhow, and then you're like, I don't understand why they're dating out or just deciding to go monk mode. That doesn't make any sense. And again, why is this man going to buy cows when he can get milk for free?
So in other words, if you imagine lots of people out there in the dating market, people kind of match up. But then if you're in a portion of the market where there are not many of you, and you're very desirable, and then you have a lot of women who are also desirable, but there are a lot of them, that might kind of shift your decision-making calculus about when or whether to get married. Because it's kind of like, why close down the shop when there's so much business? Or why, that's really the, and so people might have
You see, this is what I mean about black women create the men they complain about. You've won the battle and completely lost the war. You spent so long sabotaging your own sons that 10, 20 years down the line, you have no eligible men to marry. This is why I personally always use the expression, I know it was coined, I think, by Ron Wills, this idea of black women create the men they complain about. By stunting and sabotaging your sons, you ultimately mean down the road there are no eligible men for women to marry. So black women need to stop looking at black men. Obviously, black men who've reached adult age, they have to do what they have to do, blah, blah, blah. But they need to also be looking back on the women of the previous generation and said, why did you break all the black men? And now I've got no one to marry.
For my meal kit delivery, I chose the vegetarian box, and the meals that I received were the salsa verde enchiladas, harissa sweet potato pockets, and the Mediterranean baked veggies, which you guys are going to watch me make right now.
No.
I've tried a...
No way.
You know, it might be more difficult, ironically.
And I like veg, but I'm not feeling that at all.
To get the very appealing, desirable man, precisely because there's so many other women who also want the man. So there's that. So there's a negotiation going on there. And the man has more power in the negotiation because he's in short supply. The woman has less power in the negotiation.
Manu says, very few children are estranged from the mother's side of the family. The preponderance of the inverse partially explains the dearth of marriage. Yeah, because at the end of the day, he was a son raised by his father, but he's managed to get married. Now, okay, he's got 3 sisters, and one of them also managed to get married as well. But it's true. This is why, and I after someone said it online, I actually saw it, like 3 generations of women living in the same house and barely any men. I was like, this stuff really does happen. You know, women coming together and kind of just being husbands to each other, even if it means over several generations.
Because her group is in high supply. So that's the kind of the situation that a lot of black women confront. And you know, one of the sad things about it is that the black women who confront that, who are dating the guy, right, who's in high demand, these are women who themselves are very accomplished, and they've done everything that people tell them to do, right? You go to school and you get a good job and you just do all these things, but then there's this one part of life that somehow it seems like it's just not working out. And
you're academically and job-wise very accomplished, but your relationship skills are trash. That's what he's saying. You have poor people skills. You have relationship skills that have atrophied. You don't know how to live harmoniously with a man. So it doesn't matter how accomplished you are in the boardroom or the classroom. You don't have what it takes to get or keep the kind of men you say you want. That's what he wants to say, but he's on a woman's platform and he knows what he will get.
What I wanted to do was to say, well, if it's not working out, it's not because, you know, there's anything wrong with you.
Yes, it must be something wrong with you because you're the common factor in all these relationships. So yes, it is something to do with you. That's why you can't get the man, and that's why you can't keep him.
It's not working out because of this broader structure that has resulted in there not being enough black men who are there to be good partners for you.
Okay, let's go with that. The black women are perfect. Thank you for acknowledging that there's a system and a structure which is keeping black men. I mean, whichever way you go, I'm going to get you, Christelyn. I swear to God. I'm going to catch you in the trap. If she says black women are not right, I've got you. And if you say the system is destroying black men, I've got you. So whichever route you try to pick, I've got you. So thank you for acknowledging there's a system that is working against black men. And that's why also there is a shortage of eligible black men, according to Christelyn, because the men she wants are in short supply. And a lot of the black men who actually could be eligible, she doesn't see them, or they're not getting a chance.
That's the problem. And that's not a problem you created, but it's a problem that you're kind of caught up in.
Yes, it is.
Because we live in a racist society that has resulted in unprecedented numbers of black men being in prison and unemployed and not being able to receive good education and so on.
She's blinking a lot. What does that mean?
There's a larger story about why we have these problems, but it definitely shapes people's lives in ways that can be pretty long lasting.
So you mentioned if we're going to go with this supply and demand model, you suggested, particularly for black women, that the way to prepare the black community is the very thing that some people find so absolutely shocking. And you said that if more black women would say, I'm opening up myself to all men, then all of a sudden, instead of just saying black men only, nobody else need apply, you're actually damaging the community and the marriage rates by not opening their options. Can you make that a little plain for the audience? I know what you're saying, but I want to.
Okay, who cares about the marriage rates? Who cares about the marriage rates? The issue here is not whether black women get married. It's about whether or not they can have a functioning community.
So the idea is that if there's part of the marriage problem, right? The reason that we're not married, frankly, as black people, even those who are doing well in other ways, part of it is the numbers mismatch. Too few black men, lots of black women means that there's not a lot of incentive for the men to marry, while the women might want to marry. They can't force the guy to marry. So we have this chronic imbalance, and that leads to a lot of heartache and heartbreak and relationships that at least are not ideal from the woman's perspective. So one way to remedy that, individuals can only do so much, but one thing that individuals can do is to say, well, if I don't have a lot of options as a woman because there are not that many black men out there, and this is true in lots of workplaces and schools.
Just
and so
compete
forth.
harder.
If there are not a lot of black men in the pool, then maybe I should consider other men and enlarge my own pool. And if you enlarge your own options, that actually kind of evens out the power imbalance between the men and the women, right? Because frankly, someone's going to treat, if you're in any kind of romantic relationship, you start off the date. If you're dating someone and they know that you don't have any other options and that they're like the only, they're the only guy who's in the mix, they're going to treat you a little differently than if they have to worry that you might leave.
Yes.
Other people who are pursuing you, they will treat you better. And that's not to say they're a bad person. That's just the way people work and relationships work. That's the way life works. If you're on the job and your employer's treating you poorly, if they know that you have a better job offer and you might leave, then they might treat you better if they don't want you to leave.
Right.
Okay, so I didn't like this bit at all. Okay, treat you better how? Black men placate to women all the time. This is why women of other races find black men so desirable, because they are more likely to be, sensitive and egalitarian and da-da-da-da. Are American black women the only demographic in the world that largely grew up without the opposite sex parent in their day-to-day lives? I would say because Hispanic people have a higher rate of single mother out of wedlock pregnancies than actually black people. But the thing about Hispanics is they still have a patriarchal culture. And because these communities are often Catholic, they have very traditional gender roles. They still have a lot of male figures in their community to look up to, even if it's the opposite sex or the same sex. Whereas with the Western black community, you have feminism, and you also have a lot of social justice business, as well as the matriarchal single parent structure. You see, it's a multifaceted why the black woman is hard to be with in the West. You've got the feminist ideology, which is anti-man. At its core, it's a hatred for men, and everything men like, they want you to do the opposite. And then you have this matriarchal system where the black woman cannot be critiqued or held accountable for anything, which means even when she's messing up, she's not going to hear criticism. And then you've got the liberal aspect, which is, you know, non-traditional gender roles, progressiveness, which connects basically to feminism. The black woman in the West is often heavily indoctrinated with feminism. So growing up in a household where you did not see interactions between a mother and a father is particularly detrimental for black women, because their mind is now shaped by what they learn at school, what they're taught by the TV and things like this. In other cultures where they still have traditional gender roles, even if you don't grow up with observing your parents, you are still able to understand what your role is as a woman and what his role is as a man. It's a deep fact question. So the answer is no. But because of the culture of the black community, black women are not socialized to be wives and mothers. They're socialized to get jobs and have a career. Not to benefit their spouse, but actually to compete with men, and also because you have to prepare for when the man leaves you. That's the mindset that the women go into college with. I'm getting a degree instead of a man. Whereas other races go into it with the mentality, I'm getting a degree just in case I don't leave with that husband. It's slightly different, you see. So I didn't like what he said right here about, you know, whatever it was that he said. Did you just appear, IB? I was missing you. Where you been? Where you been? What you been up to? You've been in other people's chat rooms giving trouble, isn't it? I see you. I'm watching you. I'm about to open your webcam and spy. I'll be negative. IB, don't come in here accusing me of being negative. All right? Knock it off. Calm down. All right? Because I don't know if you just come in here, but I wasn't that negative. But the bottom line is this: truth and adult conversation and objective thinking, critical thinking, not just running with a narrative, is not negative. Learning to critique something is not negative. It's called opening your objective eyes. And the reason why I touched on this, and the funny thing is this, that's how I know you came late. I was going to do a video on this man's video anyway about is marriage for white people, because a couple of people have asked me about this. And when I went and did my own investigation, this man's not saying anything. What he's telling black women in terms of why they need to date out is what black men have been saying for the longest while. That you have institutional racism, you have children who are being disadvantaged and attacked in their own classrooms by the teachers who have low expectations. You have laws that work against black people, and you have a broken, dysfunctional structure and in the family. The point is this: why? That's what's happening externally. What can black women do to turn the tide? And the black women twiddle their thumbs and pretend like they don't know what to do, when the answer is don't have children out of wedlock and have children with men who want to have children with you. That's the point. So when he's out here making out like there's nothing black women can do, poor them, they just have to hop the fence, it still doesn't address the fact that black women help to create the men they complain about. And as long as you are telling black women you're perfect, there's nothing wrong with you, they are never going to address the things they can control. And also, this man was challenged by black men to address the points he made in the book, and none of the men who reached out to him, he responded back to them. And yet he has time to come on Christelyn's show because obviously being a matriarchal man, he's going to pander to them. So I was going to do a video on this eventually anyway, because the fact that people try to bring this man's book as an argument doesn't make any sense. Because he's not telling anybody anything that nobody kind of already can see with their own two eyes. And the reality of the situation is this. It's not a shortage of men. It's the kind of men that black women are conditioned to like. There is a shortage of that type of man. And anybody who doesn't fit into that type doesn't even fall on their radar. And also these women are leading with their accomplishments instead of femininity and settling down with the right kind of man who'll be good for them. Like Jessica, who just made 300, 6 figures in 3 years, previous 3 years. Now she thinks she's too good. But you wasn't too good 13 years ago to have a baby for a broke man, it looks like. A guy who's unstable. So it's kind of like this doubling back now you've got yourself together. A lot of men are not trying to hear it.
Same idea that you want to expand your options. That helps to balance out the power. And over time, that could actually even balance out the numbers between black men and women so that the relationships are more on a level playing field rather than one that's tilted so strongly in favor of the men.
And also, just to add to the icing on this cuckoo cake that black women have to deal with, black men who make over 6 figures and are successful intermarry at, you said in your book, almost 3 times the rate. So you have, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you have 43%, only 43% of black men marry. And of that 43%, 24% of that 43% is marrying out.
Why are you fixated on a quarter of the men who marry out when there are 3/4 of the men who still marry black women?
I always tell people.
Why are you fixated on the quarter?
The statistics are tricky because it depends on exactly what time period and what age and so forth. Most men do marry. I mean, most women do marry eventually, right? Most men do marry of all races. Most black men do marry. They tend to marry later than men of other races. In terms of intermarriage, intermarriage rates among black men have been rising dramatically. Intermarriage rates have also been rising among people of other races, right? So black men are not the only ones intermarrying. Latinos and Asian Americans and Filipinos and all sorts of people are marrying people from other groups, right? That's what America is becoming. What's actually most surprising is the low rate at which black women intermarry. And so black women are kind of the outliers. And there's a complicated story about why black women are the outliers. And there certainly is there is animosity toward black women. There is a white standard of beauty that some people embrace.
Colorism, featureism, texturism, misogyny. It's not just that. It's not your chocolate skin. It's all the other stuff that is notorious about black women. Just knock it off.
But one of the reasons that black women intermarry at such low rates is because of black women's own feelings about it. Either resistance or, not recognizing that a man may be interested in you. And there are a lot of women, since I wrote the book, I've had countless women and men, frankly, come to me with stories that in one way or another are sort of revolve around the theme of, I didn't know he was interested. It is kind of a black woman with a non-black man, and maybe he's interested in her. He doesn't know how to show it, or maybe he thinks he's showing it. She doesn't know how to decode the signals. they're not like they're just not communicating, because there's not a history of them communicating, right? With black men and black women, they kind of had the signals worked out. But when you have, non-black men, you have an Asian American man and a black woman, they're each it's like they speak foreign languages.
Yes.
So the odd thing and the sad thing in a way is that they actually might both be interested in each other, but not have a way to communicate that or be hesitant and shy. It reminds me.
To be honest with you, that's not true. When Christelyn brought this guy Lance Growth on, the black guy who was the CEO, and she was asking him about being being with a single mother, you want to see all the thirsty comments in the comment section. Okay, black women want to be with black men, just like most people want to be with people from their own race. The hell's they talk about pink wee wee. This show needs to be nationwide for what? Indigo Kid. And most older gen Africans are pick me. Okay. But you guys are out here wanting to be picked by who? Each other? These women are confused. Black women are scared of racists when they are abused by black men the most. Everybody's abused by their own people the most. I've got a white avatar. They are more scared of being called the N-word than getting their faces beat in. Again, more hyperbole. But most people are attacked by their own people because of proximity. The same reason why you date close to you is why you get attacked and abused close to you. It's about who's in your proximity.
When I was a kid, we would go to a teenager, we would go to the school dance. And, there was always a tension about whether you should ask the girl to dance. And you spend all the time trying to figure out whether she was interested in you, and was she looking at you? Was that her sexy look, or was she angry, or was what was going on?
You guys are kids.
Trying to get your attention or not? And there was so much anxiety about, walking across that dance floor to ask her to dance. And, there probably were a lot of cases where I was interested in her, she was interested in me, but we don't connect because we each have so much anxiety and uncertainty about it. So
I didn't even get this far in the
just
video.
To break out of that. And one way that can happen now is frankly through all the internet dating websites.
Yes.
Which is a revelation, right? Because you can go on and you can find that while there's a world of people who you may not be interested in, may not be interested in you, all you need is one.
Yes.
That you're interested in and who's interested in you, where there's a good match, and you're set. And it's probably easier than ever to find that person online, given how mainstream internet dating has become.
Absolutely. So I want to conclude this with you giving some manly advice to the women who follow me. There's, again, a lot of misinformation, and we're consuming
from you.
All sorts of different sources that have different motivations.
From you.
I consider you a very, very high value man. But when I say high value man, what is your definition of a high value man?
Oh, God. Just leave Kevin alone, for God's sake. You see, Christelyn really... Christelyn made a big boo-boo. She really did. If she had just, after that incident of trying to go on Kevin's show and she didn't show up, just left it, this would have died down and blown over. But instead, she's like quadrupling down on trying to somehow discredit Kevin. And all she's doing is making herself look bad. Because everyone's wondering, well, not wondering, why have you got such a chip on your shoulder? Why do you have to take shots? Like, you literally created an entire series just to assassinate Kevin's character and his talking points, even though every person you bring up confirms what Kevin said. It's like, why can't you just let it go?
Wow. That's a good one. Who's going to be
He's a matriarchal.
Value to who, right? So it's like a Christmas gift, right? The right gift for one person is not the right gift for the other person. I will say, let me say this, is that a lot of times when people think about trying to find a partner, they think a lot about who's going to make them happy, right? You know, who's going to make you happy. You want to be with someone who's going to make you happy. And it's sensible to think about it that way. I get that. But they should also think about who do they want to make happy. Right?
Oh my God.
If you're trying to figure out
that frantic blinking has started again. What? But you mean we've got to make the man happy? You mean we've got to do stuff that he likes and wants us to do and be? What?
Like, who's a good partner for me? You need to think, what type of partner do I want to make happy?
Ooh.
And that type of person is going to be someone that you admire, someone that you respect, someone whose values
He's about to go into a trance.
Promote, someone whose goals and aspirations in life are the ones that you can embrace, someone that you are impressed by, frankly.
It's like, no, I don't want to hear
you
this.
have all those feelings about the person for you to do what's necessary to make the relationship work.
He's been watching the manosphere.
And one way to capture that is just to think, is this someone that I really want to make happy and that I really want to invest myself in?
You see how unenthusiastic Christelyn is.
If you feel that, that's not a guarantee that things are going to work out, right? Because life is full of uncertainty. But at least you're starting off right. If you each feel that the other is someone not only who might make you happy, but that you want to make happy and that you want to invest in.
How long have you been married?
Oh, see, now I got to just say, when we got married in 1997.
Wow, okay.
2007.
I don't know what years is that. Who knows?
17.
Time has passed.
23
and then COVID
years.
time is hard to count. So we got married June 21st, 1997, which does seem like yesterday. And I will say that
Brian Henderson said she looks like she's got an upset stomach. That is like bile repeating on her when he mentioned the phrase, you got to be the kind of person that the person would want. When we talk about high value, it's value to who? This is exactly what Kevin said. I haven't actually watched this far in the video, so this is a reaction video now. She is uncomfortable because she's having a very visceral reaction, because what the men in the manosphere have been saying for years is that the women do not care to even know what men like, want, and need. They don't know men. And it's all right to want what you want as a woman, but do you have what it takes to get it and keep it? And what are you prepared to do? You see, a lot of brothers, they do videos talking about this Becky or this woman here or this Latina there, and she's a pick-me and she's catering to her man and yada, yada, yada. And black women are kind of fighting that. But it's that attitude of, even in the comment section, you've got women calling other women pick-me's. Any woman who enjoys taking care of their man and being there for their man is labeled a pick-me or a pick-me-sha. So when he made that statement that you have to also be a woman who is interested to know how to take care of your man, she had a very visceral reaction, because this is the same thing Kevin says every night. What do you bring to the table? What exactly do you bring to the table? What does the man that you want from you? And the answer is always cricket, because this is something many modern women, but in particular in the black community, women are not taught to even think about or understand. So again, he had some moments where I was questioning him, but I give him a little clap because he drove that point home, even though it went over the comment section's head. Thank you for the advice. Great live. I don't know who asked how age. There's a lot of 23-year-olds in here. So basically, if you're 30, you can scrap this lot because they're all done for. 23, when they're in the prime, they're listening to this. This lot's done. Cole, you're done. Isaacin, you're done. Alita, finish. JL, bye. T. Ford, the next generation of Zillennials that did have potential wives, yeah, KO for sure. That's yeah, done, finished, done. So 23-year-olds, sorry guys, no wives for you. Christelyn got there first.
People changing, and we think about us changing, and people can change. I don't want to say they can't change, but the essentials of a person, you should not expect to change. If you meet someone,
okay, but why are we talking about people's breath, for God's sake? Yeah, something came out of his mouth that she didn't like. Definitely.
Themselves to you, right? Sometimes you say, "Oh, I didn't know this." Like, no, people reveal themselves to you if you are aware and open to what they're revealing. And if someone is hardworking, when you meet them, they will be hardworking. If they are attentive or inattentive, they will remain that way. So don't expect them to change. Which is why it's more important to think about the core of this person.
Okay, so this is good. Jessica, average at best lady, she said, I was working with these guys in their struggle rap career, and I was taught to be a ride or die chick, and I'm tired of the struggle love. So who is actually sabotaging black women? It's other black women giving them bad advice. And how many times do black men say to black women, leave Pookie and Ray Ray alone? Do not be getting with these non-productive guys. Get with guys who are actually about something. Their potential isn't just talk. Their potential is actually steps in the direction of actually materializing something. They're going to school. They have a job. They're staying out of trouble. They're working and studying. They have a 5-10 year plan. They know who they are and where they're going. And we know black women can identify these men because they deliberately avoid them for the broke dusties. It's only when they cannot make those broke dusty men into what they want them to be that they then try to circle back around for the guys that they rejected in their past. So again, it's not a case of black women don't know how to identify decent men. The problem is they are not socialized to find them sexually attractive. And being sexually attracted to the man is a higher priority than actually stability and security.
What their values are, how they move in the world,
I need to add blocker.
Unison quarter pack. Unison mini quarter pack. It is super, super useful.
I've got a song for this one.
Basically,
I am low host,
mini chords and progressions,
but I got sleep in my eye and dragon breath. I'm still 10.
And create pro-level chords and progressions instantly. Let me show you how it works.
No, don't show me that.
The spirit and the energy that they bring, and to really honestly think about whether that's a spirit and an energy and a set of values that's worthy of your investment. And
it's still always about what the woman is bringing to the table, if it's worthy of your investment. Yes, relationships are a two-way street, but
if it's worthy of your investment, then you should hang on to that person, and because that's something that can be some of the greatest sources of joy and meaning in your life.
Thank you for that. I just want to clarify. I see some people in the chat who are like, Christelyn said black ashy babies. That's so disrespectful. You guys, that's a movie quote from Something New. The sisters were all gathered around having dinner and talking about men, and they were gauging the potential of a particular black man that I think Shanae Lathan was considering. And one of the co-stars said, girl, I have all his black ashy babies. It's a movie quote, you guys.
Yes, it's a movie quote, but it's a derogatory movie quote.
I don't want to see spin-offs of this video talking about Christelyn said that full black children are black and ashy. No, take it up with the producers and the screenwriters for Something New.
Bubblegum Peach, finished. 23,
you know,
listening to
the
Christelyn,
lexicon
done.
Of what we say in our movie.
Out of the game,
Anyway,
finished.
Rick, this has been such a
Headache.
wonderfully insightful conversation.
All right, so there you have it, guys. People keep asking me, well, a couple of people have been talking to me about this book, Is Marriage for White People? It would be very interesting to see the statistics. A lot of people are calling this man, the brothers are calling him a coward, because as much as he was reached out to multiple times to speak to them about this book and what he wrote, he refused to actually engage men, but he doesn't mind speaking to white people and women. The bottom line of the situation is this: Black women help to create the men they complain about in terms of who they have children with and who they date, their dating standards. And it's good that he's acknowledged that Black men do face struggles. They face struggles that cause them to find it hard to be able to compete. So it's not that they're just defeated or they're inherently lazy or no good. No, there is an entire system working not just to keep the Black community down, but to keep the Black man down in particular. Because where there is a shortage of Black men, you're also going to have a shortage of marriage and stable families. So I hope this was interesting. I wanted to cover this topic. It's good to get Christelyn's reaction to this whole situation. At the end of the day, no, marriage is not for white people, but white people want marriage to be just for them because they understand the value and the importance of being married and staying married. So I appreciate everybody who came through. I don't produce. I wish I could. I wish I could use that kind of software. What are you doing? Use that for. There's money to be made pandering to women. He's found a way to make money. It doesn't matter if it came from a movie. She still made the remark. Exactly. I wish I could produce, you know. But yeah, at the end of the day, Christelyn, you know, she can say what she wants, but she knows the truth. She knows that Black women are complicit in the destruction of Black men. And this is what I was saying about the video earlier regarding Cassie West. She's seen, because she's subscribed to Chrissy, how when you get caught up in the gender war, if you just pander to Black female emotions, you can make a lot of money and boost your subscribership just because you simply tell Black women that they're beautiful, that they're perfect, and that the Black man is scary. No one's really going to push back on Cassie because she's a female, so she can accuse people of misogyny, and she can also, but even if Black men come for her, she knows Black women will protect her because at the end of the day, they're desperate for her validation, and they have this mentality, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But she's not trying to boost Black women. She's just trying to boost the numbers for her channel and her platform. And once she gets that support and that money, she will switch back to what she said earlier. So at some point I have to do the video because, you know, she completely contradicted what she said 9 months ago after she made this big spectacle about age gap relationships and accusing Kevin of almost being some kind of child molester and also, you know, being completely delusional. Tom Likas is a millionaire by my understanding, and as much as he looks the way he looks, he is beating 20-something-year-olds off with a stick. So it's not that delusional. And I know Kevin looks a hell of a lot better than Tom Likas. Okay? For those who don't know, Tom Likas is like a red pill. I think he's a MGTOW, a white radio host. And he's one of the ones that's out here talking about telling white men pump and dump and single mothers are no good and single mothers are only good for one night stands and, you know, you use them for sex because they're clearly people who don't make good decisions. So this notion that there's only Black men critiquing their own men, that's another fallacy that people like Christelyn like to put out to demonize Black men. But I really appreciate everybody. Roast my boots. Yeah. I don't know why you would put the word kitten on the back of boots, but then I'm not Gucci and I'm not going to spend that much money on a pair of boots either. So shout out to On Three Thoughts, George, Brian, shout out to you. DJ, where's that block button? TJ now. Who else is here? Manu12, shout out to you. IB, I know you're watching. I see you. I'm about to open your webcam and harass you. It's been a good show. Thank you so much for coming through, guys. Let's scroll up to the top. Let's see if there's anybody else. We had bringing clarity to confusion. Shout out to you. And that's it. So, for those of you catching this on the restream, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Share the video with somebody who needs to see it. Like and subscribe. Have a great evening, guys. If I don't speak to you before Christmas, Merry Christmas. And yeah.